Hare Krishna, this is Rambaru Dasi at BhaktiCare. I wanted to respond a little more to a letter I received from Haridam Prabhu, who has been asked to represent the ISKCON movement's view of organ donation. I emailed him briefly back two views that I have heard from talking to different devotees. As a healthcare professional, that is definitely something I've had to ponder. In fact, when I was doing my residency in Yuma, Arizona, the chaplain's job was to approach people and try and get them to discern whether they would allow their loved ones' organs to be used. So I did a lot working closely with the people who actually procured them and had to think a lot about it. The two views I have presented in my email, one is the view that somehow if you throw, for example, a needle out in your trash and it goes to a trash dump and a goat eats it and dies or hurts himself because of something you even not intentionally did, somehow you are implicated for the suffering you inflicted on someone else. So the analogy here is the idea that if I let my organs be given to someone else and they use my organs or my eyes, my ears, my tissues to continue their sinful activities, then am I not implicated in that? There's that argument. There's also the argument of the person who slaughters the animal, buys the meat, prepares the meat, serves the meat, sells the meat. Are they not as sinful as the person eating the meat? So in the same way, even if you don't know that a person who has received your organs is going to be misusing them somehow because you have enabled them, you are also implicated. There's that view. The other view I've heard from devotees is the idea of if compassionate action or loving action or devotional service is the sponsoring underlying ground on which we stand as bhakti yogis, then just like if you were to discard an old shirt, at the point of death you're discarding a body that is no longer useful to you, and if someone picks it up and can make use of it, then go for it, and that's an compassionate action. I think Anjali Harvey, I think that was her name, she emailed also and suggested that, well, we don't know if having a devotee's, say, a heart, and we transplanted a heart, we don't know if that person will benefit from having a body part that has been used in Christian service. And though on the understanding of compassionate action, we don't know, maybe that person will become a devotee just by having a devotee organ. I would agree with that. That's a really interesting idea. And the case in point in support of that is we have the director of our transplant program here at Los Angeles County Hospital, and he indeed had a heart transplant. And the woman that he got the heart from 20 years ago loved baking. She was a baker. She loved baking cookies. Now, this man who received the heart never was interested in baking. But when he received the heart from the baker, he all of a sudden took a passion for baking. So I mean, it's an idea. It's a kind of a who knows, what that means. But yeah, it could well be that a person receiving a heart from a devotee or a liver or leg or something gets an opportunity possibly to take devotional service. As I've thought about it, also for myself, from my own perspective, and what I've kind of come to as a devotee around this issue is it might be service to give my body part to someone else. thinking that my body is in any way just a lump of flesh, and we're going to discard it. It's going to become ash anyway. If someone can get some use out of it, take it. But working it in reverse, thinking whether if I were suffering from a liver failure or a kidney failure and was proposed the option to have my life prolonged by having a heart transplant or a liver transplant, I would probably decline. And the reason I would probably decline is the same reason I have for extending a person's life artificially through life support means. I have accompanied so many people who have had heart, liver, all kinds of transplants, and know how often it is not successful, and how much medication a person, from the time they get that transplant, how much they are dependent on drugs to keep that body from rejecting it. And my sense is that if we are, as Krishna conscious beings, meant to be living in harmony with nature, to me, if my body is finished, it's time to go. And it's really better to prepare myself comfortably in the best way I can through hospice care, surrounded by devotees, to go either back to Godhead or have a better birth, than to subject myself or a loved one to and if you haven't seen it, and if you haven't accompanied people who are on ventilators for years and years and years in a coma, to see how a person's quality of life is compromised, and also for people who have had transplants. Now, I've seen people who have had successful transplants of liver and kidney and heart, and various tissues and stuff. They might get 3-4 years of life. It is rare that a person's life will be, 20 years extended. Not always, but in my view, probably would let my organs be shared if I was ready to die, but not sure that I would want to have a heart or a liver of someone else in my body, for perhaps the same reason as, who knows what the consciousness, how that's connected to the tissues and organs. I'm not sure I'd want to risk that, and probably would prefer myself just to use that as an opportunity to surrender to Krishna and go back to Godhead or get another body. It all sounds so simple when we talk about it in an article, but when you journey with people day to day in the process of heart transplant, an organ transplant, it's a very risky business, and doctors are really playing and tampering with nature. And in my view, nature is the expression and instrument of Krishna, and I'm really into the idea of allowing natural death if it's time. I probably would prefer that. So anyway, just wanted to shoot this off to Haridam. I know he's working on this project. If any of you have any comments, questions, insights that you can offer to this discussion, please email me at pamho.com, vaishnava.chaplains@pamho.net, or rambaru@yahoo.com, or you can respond to this little clip below the clip. I know Haridam is looking for lots of different ways of looking at it. His assumption is, and I agree with him, that it would be individual deciding, and that as devotees we would go, before we got to the point where we would even consider taking or transplanting an organ into our body, we would go for alternative preventative health care. I agree with him totally. So this is Rambaru Dasi at BhaktiCare. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.